I want to switch a little bit, and I'm going to get your perspective. There's a lot of talk about making the college game more like the NBA. 24-second clock, quarters, everything. I love that. I know your coach does. You're a player, and sometimes in this equation, we never ask you what you think. What would you think of them changing the game and saying, hey, whatever the pro rules are, that's what we have in college?
I think that'll be good for us. I think it'll help us get ready for the next level. It'll help us mentally, and we'll have more space on the floor too.
Yeah. And
the games will go by faster. Well, I wouldn't say faster, but the shot clock is at 24, so you really have to get into your offense fast.
Why do you, I was asked by a national person today when they knew I was coming to see you to ask you, why do you love that? Why have you been the coach out front pushing that? Because I agree with you, by the way.
Well, the reason I do is I think it's one of our jobs. One of our jobs, first of all, why should we have different three-point lines and this line and that line? Why? Why? Now we're putting a new floor in down there. We got to put another line in so that when my guys are done, they can start working on the NBA threes, you know? Why shouldn't it all be the same? And maybe most important, isn't our job as educators to teach them things to help prepare them for the next step in life? Well, if that's our job here, it's to win games, graduate players, and help them fulfill their dreams of getting to the NBA for my guys. Why shouldn't we do that and help? I don't know if you want to call it a farm club. I don't know if you want to, but I mean, in baseball, the double A, single A, triple A, they don't have different rules. The baseball doesn't have different rules in college than they do in pro ball. In football, you know, there's a couple little things, but the field's the same size. You know, they have 4 quarters, all that stuff's the same. Why don't we do that in basketball and make the transition for them better? Maybe a kid that would get talked into going to the D-League would rather stay in college if he thinks we're help preparing him the same way as they would. So yeah. I guess I never even asked them. You asked them. Our answers are pretty much the same. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to ask you about the Big Ten. 3 new coaches. What do you think of the 3 new hires?
Well, I think the coaches in this league have been phenomenal over the last 5-6 years. You know, we've gotten some really good new coaches in that have had success. There's a couple of, you know, I've known Archie Miller a long time. He's now going to be at Indiana, and you know, he's done a good job at Dayton. I don't know as well from Butler. He's had some success there, not been in it as long. And who's the third one?
Underwood at Illinois.
Oh yeah, Underwood at Illinois, and he's had a lot of success at smaller levels. And then he had some success at Oklahoma State, and so I don't see that changing any. I think Miles would agree. You know, our league wasn't quite as good at the top last year. We were one of the reasons why. You know, we've been predominantly a top 4 team, and we weren't quite there, but the league in the middle and the bottom was, man, did you ever go into a game saying, yeah, we can win this game just playing average?
Every game was hard for us.
It was, and for other people too. Yeah. And I think that's what gets misled in this league. You know, there's a reason we've led the country in attendance for 35, 40 years. It's hard to play on the road. It's there's good coaches, and I don't know if we've been upgraded, but we haven't been downgraded. How's that?
Good point. I want to ask you a question, Miles, that I don't think people are being fair. When we talk about changes to the NCAA, we hear from coaches, fans, definitely hear from talking heads like me, because we throw our opinion around. But I've never had anyone sit down and just say to a kid, if you were given a magic wand and said, fix college basketball for the student athlete, you're a guy that loves being here, you love the way you're treated, you love the facilities. I know you're not complaining about that. What would you like to see the NCAA look at and change?
I don't want to bash the NCAA, but I wouldn't change anything really except for just make the college game more like the NBA game. That's the only thing.
That's the only thing that you'd change.
How about that for an answer?
That's a,
you know, everybody else is going to talk about money and this and that, and you know, that's a tough question. You asked me a tough question.
Yep.
And you've asked pretty good questions. This one was a tough one to me because I don't know how I would answer it, even if you ask me, you know, and you ask him. But it's just another reason why I have an appreciation for him, you know. And you know, I don't know. There's always this never ending. I think we've done a better job financially now where they have some money in their pocket, and yet, as I always tell them, I think it's good to struggle a little bit and learn how to do that, so when things come, it gives you something to work for, you know. And at least it did for me. But it's tough. There's just a lot of, you're trying to serve a lot of different people at a lot of different levels, and right now I feel like we have at least done a better job in loosening some rules where we can have the guys over to eat. We can do this and do that. We've worked out some financial things where at least they're going to have a little money. Yeah, you always hope it's more. If I was a player, I definitely hope it was more, even though he didn't say that. But we've done a better job of that, you know. And there's probably little things, but right now for us here, we've got great facilities. I got great guys. We appreciate the opportunity we have to play, and pro ball will be for that next level that can really take advantage of that. Just like when I was a teacher and then moved up, and you work your way into these things.
I'm going to go back to why I asked you that question. I heard the only time I heard you complain last year was that you were in a time of year where coach couldn't coach you, and you're like, this makes no sense. I come here to play basketball. My coach can't coach me because, you know, the NCAA restrictions on his time. I've heard players, not here for him, but I've heard players at other schools on TV or radio talk about, you know, we need limitations on how much the coach. You wanted them not to have limitations on the coaches, did you?
Yeah, I feel like if the coaches are there all the time, then we'll have better team chemistry by the time the season comes. So I don't know why that is.
Okay, because that's the reason that made me ask that question, because I thought
It's a good question in that respect. It's a good answer in his. And you know what my answer would be?
What?
I'm lucky enough that I got good leaders, and I don't worry about it as much as I would with certain teams, because these guys, I mean, sometimes I do worry that players get burnt out. The AU thing is, you know, there's a lot of pressure on these guys. You know, like we just asked him to take some weeks off. He took a couple weeks off, conditioning wise, I hope, but not skill wise. He's working his ball and working on his shooting. Probably more often than not, we almost got to tell you guys to get out of here, take some time. That's kind of a neat thing from a coaching standpoint. But I would agree that if I was a player, you know, coaches aren't stupid. They'd get sick of us if we were around all the time. And you know what's funny? We'd get sick of you if you were around all the time. So it's a vice versa. But man, if a player comes in and says, Coach, can you help me with my shot? I'd like to work on this today. Can you check out this? I think that's one thing we should be able to do. If it's player driven,
yeah,
I think we should be able to do a little more of that.
Last question for you. I consider Tom Izzo my friend. I've known him a long time. Forget basketball. I think he's a Hall of Fame person. But you have a different relationship than I do. He's your mentor. He's a guy you love. You've been very open with me about the fact I don't like Coach. I love him. What is the thing about Tom Izzo you wish every recruit, fan, and everybody knew about him that you've been able to get to know about him and why you love him?
Yeah, I mean, I know fake people when I see him, but as soon as I met Coach, I knew it was real, genuine love for his players. And once I really started playing, I really got to see that. And even when we were losing, most coaches, they would blow their players off, but he was always there for us whenever we needed him. So that just made me respect him a lot more.
You've had a lot of great players, and I don't want to talk about the basketball player. You've had some as good a people as Miles is. Certainly he's not there, but he is special as a man, not a basketball player. What is the thing you wish people knew about Miles that they don't know because of the highlight dunks and plays?
Well, I think in a year, most people know a lot about Miles, because I make it a big point, because it's hard to talk about a person because you never know, are they going to go off the deep end, is something going to go wrong?
So don't get arrested tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. How are they going to react to tough times? And we kind of went through that whole thing all year when it could have been disappointments, it could have been this and that. He stuck by some seniors. He showed his colors, and I would ditto what he said. There's no phony. If he comes up and shakes your hand, tells you it's nice to meet you, It's not that cliche that people use. It's not that thing that people do just to be kind. It's genuine, you know. And he was raised that way. He cares about people, and I think you're going to see one aspect of Miles you didn't see last year. Won't be his shooting, his ball handling, even though those have all improved. Won't be his strength, and won't be his athletic ability. I think you're going to see a better leader this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was decent last year. It's hard to be that as a freshman. He's got a, you know, he's got some upperclassmen that him and I have talked. I think that's an area that completes him. You know, I want him to be a complete player when he leaves here.
Tom said that if everybody on this team respects you, and he doesn't think sometimes you realize how much your voice matters.
You and I talk about that. I mean, that's one of the things I said, you know, you can have an impact on a lot of people. That's where the humility and the humbleness hurt you a little bit. You know that saying, you gotta be a little cocky to be good, you gotta be a little more cocky to be great. If you can find a way to do that and still keep your humility, especially with your teammates who you're not gonna fool, that's his job this year. I ain't worried about his basketball. He's working his tail off. I watched him yesterday. We had a little practice, and I said, you know what? He's starting to lead more. He's starting to do more. He's always comfortable in his own skin, but it's the Magic Johnson line, you know. Great players play great, but elite players make other players play great. That's part of your job this year, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir.
And I think he's going to embrace that.
Awesome. All-American player, but more importantly, an All-American kid.
Yes, sir.
Hall of Fame coach, more importantly, a Hall of Fame guy. Thanks.
Thanks, Hondo.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.